Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heroes of the Storm Europe Fall Regional, the second Fall Regional that we've had so far, and the 5th Regional Championship for Heroes of the Storm in 2016. Today, we'll see many of the teams that you've seen before through the season. There's many familiar faces here, but one stands out. It is, of course, Team Dignitas. They've already won 3 of the 4 Regional Championships, and today they search for a 4th. But they might have something else on their mind, because they're already qualified for BlizzCon. At least what their opponents are hoping anyway. 2 of those are back again. One has a new name, they're the Misfits. They've won already once, they're looking for a second. And Fnatic, twice already, they've finished in 2nd place, will be looking for 1 step better. Well, over the next 3 days, we'll have 2 group stages, the semi-finals and the grand final, to crown a champion, but also find another member of the BlizzCon club for the grand finals, the global grand finals as well. We've also got a star panel for you to bring you all the action and all of the interviews and everything else that goes with the event over the next 3 days. And the birthday boy himself is leading the pack. Let's go over to Kendrick Swish at the desk with the heroes of the panel.
All right, thank you very much, Red Eye. It is good to have the esports legend himself back on a Heroes of the Storm stage. Welcome everybody from the panel as well. This is basically going to be the place where the experts and I will break down the games and keep you updated on the strategy that is involved around them. But of course, I couldn't do that all by myself. In fact, I'm just here to cheer for the German teams and look good. That's why I'm being reinforced by lovely casters from all over the globe. Jay, how, Gilly, and Todd, how are you doing, everybody?
I'm doing amazing. First off, again, happy birthday to Kendrick. It's his birthday. We're getting that out of the way right now. But, you know, I was here for Valencia just about 4 weeks ago. It was one of the most thrilling events I've ever seen. I'm ready for regional number 2 here. This is good stuff.
It's great to be here with you, Jay, Hal, with Todd, and the birthday boy, Kendrick. But man, this is my very first European regional, and I am so stoked that I get to be here at Gamescom. It's awesome.
Really happy to be there as well. We've got Red Eye there hosting. I guess we finally made it, right?
Can it get any better than that? I don't think so, to be honest.
It's your birthday. I'm sure you wished to be able to host a big tournament here for this and maybe to see a German team qualifying for BlizzCon. Ideally, it's going to be a good tournament.
Yeah, thank you very much, by the way, guys. I also heard that Zoya is celebrating with me at home, so everything's going to be good, all right? But of course, we have a lot of Heroes of the Storm goodness coming in for you. After all, this is the 2nd European Fall Regional. And it's live from Gamescom Germany, one of the biggest gaming exhibitions in the entire world. So the honor couldn't be bigger at all. But to kick things off, guys, we're going to show you which regions are actually taking part in this fall circuit. Because not only Europe is being talked about, but also NA is still going on. Over in Korea and China, we have Super League and Gold League going on. So if you are a Heroes of the Storm esports fan, this is definitely your time to shine and to enjoy a lot of good Heroes of the Storm games, of course. Today, as we said, though, it's going to be all about Europe. We need to determine a 2nd team that is going to qualify themselves for BlizzCon later this year. And you know what? You know the prize pool of BlizzCon, guys? It's going to be $1 million. So not only the famous title of World Champion, but also a big money pool is on the line. And we all already know that Dignitas qualified themselves in the last regionals, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see which team is going to follow suit. I mean, there are a lot of stacked rosters here, aren't there?
A lot of stacked rosters, indeed. I mean, we look at the amount of players that we have on these teams. We see some big names. We're going to be bringing you guys a little bit more stats, I think, this week, because there's some really, really good players on some of these teams that I think that we can look to possibly carry some of the lesser-known teams. We've got kind of a top 3, but I think we might have a breakthrough this time around, Gilly.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone has been working so hard to get here and be that 2nd team to get to qualify. And on this side, we've got Dignitas and Fnatic, but in the other group too, Misfits, the old team of My Insanity, definitely wants to prove that they are still a name in the game.
And I know, Todd, you've been traveling a lot, but is there any Heroes of the Storm team that you're looking forward to in particular?
Oh, you know, it feels like not too long ago, My Insanity felt like they were the best European team. Then now Dignitas kind of, you know, in the last tournament kind of showed that they were this team. With Fnatic playing really well themselves again, which was really nice to see. But I feel like even starting with our first match here, a team like ePunks, they're bound to reach the top at some point. Is this going to be the tournament here, though, in which they finally reach it?
I mean, they are a local German team after all, so I'm sure that the audience here at Gamescom is going to cheer for them very hard. But let's actually take a look at the groups that we have assembled for you guys at this second European Regionals. As you can see on the left-hand side, Group A consisting of Fnatic, Dignitas, the reigning European champion, ePunks, as we said, the German team that everybody here has high hopes for, and last but not least, 2Bs, the team of ADRD, the infamous drafting genius. And on the right-hand side, we see Group E consisting of GIZ. We also have the Jabronis. We have EE, a very hard to pronounce team name, which we're going to stick with EE for now, right? I think it's Excelente Elección, right? Pardon my Spanish here, guys. And last but not least, of course, the powerhouse known as Misfits, formerly known as My Insanity, guys. Any teams that we can expect to perform really well here?
I can't wait to see 2Bs. You already talked about ADRD. Guys, if you want to see some interesting drafts, make sure you tune in for the second set of the day, because ADRD on that, they draft some weird stuff, including a possible Medivh, as well as some other crazy stuff.
I myself am looking out for EE because we saw them do really well in the first qualifiers, and then at the first regional not doing so well, but now they've brought in so much experience with so many Grand Piquetes, so I think that we could see a much different, much better performance from them.
ADRD was given pretty much the perfect nickname too. I think it was by Karais. It's the mad scientist. I don't feel like there's any better way to call this guy. So excited to see him play here again.
Yeah, we were definitely going to be expecting a lot of crazy comms and drafts here throughout this tournament, guys. But you know what is really interesting for you out there? I'm pretty sure you want to know what we have in store for you on today's schedule, right? Not only the live audience, but of course also our Twitch viewers online at home. Of course, we're going to start things off with Group A, because Group A, you know, normally is the first letter in the alphabet. So let's kick things off here. Dignitas, the reigning champion, is going to duke it out first against ePunks. So that is, of course, already a sick best of 3. On paper, things might look a little bit one-sided, but I'm pretty sure that ePunks is not going to go down without a fight.
Right, ePunks, when they played at the last regional, had to play with a sub.
Yeah.
And so they had Nexen instead of Nande. He had an injury. So having their full roster, I think already they're feeling good and ready to go versus Dignitas here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned it, Gilly, Nande, the 5th player for ePunks, finally here back with his team buddies. And I'm really excited to see how well ePunks are going to perform in their normal roster, JL. Anything we can expect from the German boys here?
I think that we can expect, I think they've adapted a little bit to what some of the other teams are running, especially when you look at the current meta in the European region. They try and emulate some of the things, and this is something Dread and I were talking about as we were kind of studying this team. They try and emulate a lot of what they've seen done well. I think we're going to see more of that double warrior meta. Some of the real strong heroes are going to try and fit around that. So I'm actually kind of curious how well they can actually execute when it comes time.
Right. But let's also talk about the second best of 3 that we're going to continue with after the series between ePunks and Dignitas, of course. Fnatic, the reigning #2. I think we all remember that sick finals at the first regionals here in Europe. I mean, that was insane. That was without a doubt one of the best Heroes of the Storm I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, they had a very good Valencia as well. Finishing second, you know, you would almost always expect Dignitas and My Insanity back then, I guess, to make the finals. But Fnatic really proved that they had been working hard and that their previous, maybe a little bit more disappointing results, they didn't let those get to their head. They've been still trying to reach that very top. Taking second place last time.
Yeah.
This could be the one here where they qualify for the big one in BlizzCon.
And everybody keeps telling us, like, whenever we talk to players or coaches, they're like, you know what, Fnatic looks really scary in those scrims, in those training matches. So it's really cool to see whether they will finally be able to take their first big title under their belt. I mean, they are more than ready for it. On the flip side, though, we see 2Bs. We mentioned ADRD earlier, but 2Bs, they are a team that not really much is known of, right? You barely find any footage of their actual gameplay, Gilly.
Right. When it came to the qualifiers, they did not play in the first one, in the first regional, and so you really are just looking at anything that you can get from the second regional qualifiers for this one, and there wasn't a lot that were streamed, and so they do have that advantage. It's really just what people have seen from them from scrims, and I hope that for Fnatic's sake, they don't take advantage of them or overlook them, because as you've said with ADRD, anything, and I mean anything, is possible from 2Bs.
Absolutely, and that's the cool thing about Heroes of the Storm. I mean, if you are a quote-unquote underdog team, but you've fallen under the radar. Because of that, you can maybe surprise your team, your opponents, with some hidden draft and some secret strategies. And who better is suited for that than ADRD? I mean, we've seen Medivh a couple of times. It's going to be interesting to see, like, the new heroes as well. Gul'dan, for example, Medivh, how they can finally make an impact. And just so you guys know, we're not going to be playing on the current Auriel patch. Things are going to go a little bit more old school, so the pre-Auriel patch is our standard one. That means Gul'dan, of course, being the most recent addition.
I think the big thing that we are going to look at in that patch is there's still going to be a heavy prioritization for people like Kael'thas. Zagara, there was still a minor thing there. So I think, you know, besides that, I mean, we just talked about ADRD, all the new heroes, everything that we're going to see today. I think it's going to be more of the standard meta we've seen from Europe.
Yeah.
How well these teams are going to do it, that's kind of what I'm curious about. How quickly can you adapt in 4 weeks?
I think that could also be another advantage for the weaker teams on paper, right? Because, you know, the really good guys, they didn't really have the time either to practice on this older patch, so they might actually take their chance and win the first couple of series. However, though, I'm really excited to start off things with, of course, Dignitas as the reigning world champion. Bakery, Alex the Prodigy, you name a talent and they've got it pretty much. However, in the past, we've seen Dignitas, you know, struggle a little bit when they won the first regionals. Just think back of the summer season with Tours and Leicester. Gilly, do you think that history is going to repeat itself here?
Well, that was a little bit different because they did have a roster swap between Leicester and Tours, and so that's part of it, is they were integrating Alex the Prodigy, which we have heard took a little while for the team. But at the same time, we talked to them and they said, yeah, we took a break that maybe extended a little bit longer than we were anticipating. And so in that sense, it's possible that we will see some other teams be able to rise to the top because of that.
Right, and of course, Todd, you remember Valencia. Bakery was incredibly happy to win this regional. He even said, I think, that it meant the most of him, to him of all the tournaments, right?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying for BlizzCon is what it's all about, right? So if you think about it, they already qualified. They are going to be playing just for money here. If they want to just say, you know what, let's just have fun, you know, maybe save our strats for the big one, they could do that. But at the same time, there's still money on the line. So I'm sure they're going to be trying to, I guess, score some more of that.
But I'm pretty sure, guys, that you out there are as excited as we are, because we're going to fire up this first best of 3 between ePunks and Team Dignitas in a really short time. So stay tuned and get hyped with us together.
Okay, time to bring out our two teams for the opening match in Group A. Our first team are a 3-time regional champion. They are the one and only Team Dignitas. And their opponents, who will be hoping to have better joy this time around, have the full roster on their team, are a hometown team, and we all know what that does to the hometown team. Plenty of home support here. For the German teams, please welcome ePunks. Okay, with our two teams in place, let's head back to the desk and their final thoughts before our opening match.
All right, thank you very much, Red Eye. Of course, we know that Dignitas automatically qualified themselves here for these regionals because they performed really well at the Summer Championship. So they didn't have to go through all that qualifiers. They were actually be able to sort of study the other teams maybe from a back and just practice their overall strategies. Do you think that's going to be an advantage for them, JL?
I think it's a huge advantage, but I still want to go back to the point that we talked about before, is that they just won. We saw a little bit of a letdown. Yes, they picked up Alex. Yes, they had, you know, the transition effect. But I honestly feel that it's something that we saw in North America at the Summer Regionals with Naventic. They came in, they made it to the finals, but they kind of let their foot off the gas. And I kind of worry if that's going to be the same thing that we see from Dignitas. And there's a lot of stiff competition here in the European region.
I think ePunks are going to be a lot hungrier for this win here, especially like if you look at the group, it's like, you know, Fnatic and Dignitas are in it. The two finalists from Valencia. ePunks, they are the ones that want to reach the top. They are the ones that want to qualify for BlizzCon. So on paper, you know, they are the young up-and-comers, so to speak, in the hero scene. And honestly, I feel like at some point, they will be able to do well, but I just don't know if they're ready yet. And I guess we're going to have that question answered here with this tournament and first match.
Yeah, definitely. Very good point there, Todd. You can now see Group A's bracket, guys. In the upper half, we see the first best of 3 that is going to take place here at Gamescom right now. Team Dignitas versus ePunks. After that, we're going to continue with Fnatic against the 2Bs. And as we mentioned earlier, guys, this is a double elimination bracket, which means if you lose the first game, it is not automatically over. You get another series to redeem yourself in the lower half of the bracket. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out. And of course, we're going to have a winners match later on during the day, a losers match, and last but not least, a deciders match to determine who's going to advance one step closer to that BlizzCon ticket. Now, we mentioned ePunks earlier already, guys, and they participated at DreamHack Valencia during the first fall regionals. Were you actually satisfied with their performance, or do you think they still have a lot of things to improve on, guys?
Well, I mean, we saw them in the, I believe, the 7th to 8th place range for ePunks, but again, they were playing with a sub. It was also a lot of their first or very early on lands. I think it was Raid Boss's first land, and we have seen a lot of times that has negatively affected a player's performance. Sometimes it doesn't matter at all. You know, we've had a couple of players before, even in NA, that have just shined on their first land, but you never know how that's going to be. Now they have more experience, but at the same time, they're coming in with Nande, and it's a much bigger event here at Gamescom.
Bigger, without a doubt.
It could still affect them for sure.
I mean, they are strong when it comes to individual talent, right? Some of their players, like the earlier mentioned Raid Boss, are strong ladder warriors. I think Raid Boss even had like the top tier or top spot at the Grandmaster ladder for a very long time. Like I think for over a month or so, Todd, right?
Yeah, actually, I remember him kind of being locked in there for a long time, and I was like, okay, well, I guess this guy, you know, in StarCraft, is the same thing. The one that does well on ladder, that is rank 1 for a long time, he's bound to do super well at some point. Usually ends up winning a tournament. So if the same thing applies here, we could be seeing him do very well. But at the same time, it took them 3 qualifiers to finally make it into the tournament. So I don't think that we can say yet that, you know, they're going to be one of the favorites to do very well here. But I do think that they're going to be doing better every single time we see them come out.
And of course, their opponent here in this first best of 3 is not an ordinary one. It is one of the 2 European titans known as Team Dignitas, one of the most renowned teams in the whole of Europe, qualifying multiple times here for big tournaments and winning most of them. I mean, 3 regionals, that is something that Red Eye mentioned earlier, and that is really quite impressive. You see them now on your screen, Alex the Pro G in the middle. Probably one of the most spectated players in this tournament once again, isn't he?
He's one of the most spectated, but what we saw in Valencia was JPL, the guy second from the left. That guy, he played a lot of Muradin, and for what it's worth, that's a really good hero to play. But what we saw him do with that hero was top tier. This is like an all-star team. Mene, there, JPL, Snitch, one of the best like specialist flex players. They have an all-star cast, and then of course there's somebody named Bakery on that team as well.
But you mentioned Muradin, and the first regional was played prior to the Gul'dan patch, where he was stronger than he is now at this point. So that could also be a difference, as well as the fact that they had said that they are switching up some of what their strategies are going to be.
But on the flip side, we have the underdog team. On paper, it is going to be ePunks. You could also already hear the crowd start chanting a little bit harder for them. I mean, we're in Germany after all, so here we see them. Nick, one of the most feared assassin players in all of Europe. His Tracer is absolutely looking scary.
It wasn't even just his Tracer. When we saw him in Valencia, they only had, I think, 6 games because they got put out early. But what he showed in those 6 games was that he is, what you just said, one of the most deadly assassin players in this region. I hope that they have a chance to go a little bit further and for him to shine, because I think he can carry this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, we have players like Wolfjoe as well, who is ever so solid and reliable on that support role, because for every Tracer, you usually need a good support standing behind her. You know, a Tassador, for example, providing those plasma shields, just as important as a good assassin player.
And then Nande, a player who's been around forever. I think I was playing against this guy back in the alpha, so he's been playing heroes for a pretty long time, and it's always good to have, you know, players that have been playing for a long time on your team. It's going to help you a lot with, I guess, having a little bit more experience and maybe be able to guide them whenever the pressure starts piling on.
Also, Nick and Wolfjoe have been teammates for a really long time.
Yeah.
They used to play together for Reason Gaming, and when you have that consistency, at least even in a pair, you know that you can rely on that. You can get to the point where you know what your teammates are even thinking before they actually need to say anything.
Yeah, on the flip side, though, it could be a little bit dangerous for ePunks to be so well known for one specific strategy. So what if Dignitas decided to ban a Tracer?
But that's the thing is, I actually talked to Raid Boss. We shared the same shuttle to the hotels, and I was talking to him about the European meta and trying to get some info. And he looked at me first real sneakily. He's like, I'm not sharing anything with you. But then he started to let loose. I won't give away too much while they prepare, but he was talking about they're going to fit more towards that double warrior meta. They have some things up their sleeve. I think that they've adapted, as we talked about. They seem to be wanting to pull from different strategies that they've seen work, but his confidence level in what he feels they're going to be able to pull off seemed extremely high. We actually saw them looking very relaxed when we saw them just a moment ago.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to show your A game, it better be now, because this is the last chance to actually qualify yourself for that big fall championship, of course. That is BlizzCon. I mean, it can't get any bigger than that.
The one thing I will say about ePunks too is I was pretty happily surprised for a fairly newer team. They had really good hero pools still, though, too. Yeah. Even though, of course, again, not new. Maybe in seeing them in this season, but they've been playing together for playing all in the scene for a long time.
Right.
To be honest, besides Fnatic, Dignitas, and the old Man Insanity, there's been a lot of movement, you know, in lineups. It's like from one tournament to another, they not only change the entire lineup and shuffle it around, even the team names are like hard to keep up with. So. Yeah, one thing to take in consideration.
Yeah, but without further ado, guys, I think the players are slowly but surely getting ready. So are you guys out there, so are we at the panel, and I'm pretty sure our casters as well. The first best of 3 here live from Gamescom Cologne, of course, for the second fall regional here in the European region, going to be between ePunks and Team Dignitas. And I'm pretty sure that our casters are very eager to get their hands on this first best of 3. But for now, excuse me, we're gonna move things to a little bit of a hype video. So get ready, guys. All right, this is where things get really, really interesting. The draft is about to take place. And guys, we talked about Tracer, we talked about ePunks being very one-sided potentially, but what is Dignitas known for these days? We know that JPL, for example, you mentioned it, Jay, how it plays a sick warrior and also sometimes a Stitches. So can we expect something out of the ordinary for those guys here in this first map?
I just hope everybody else in this region was paying attention, because they ran Murd and Arthas and heavily prioritized both of those heroes in their drafts. Heavily. To where Mene is so flexible, Snitch is so flexible that it allows them to get those comfort picks early and then dominate with the backline. Gilly, I don't know about you, but I think that we're going to see some counter bans coming out from a team like ePunks.
Yeah, I would hope so, definitely. But it's hard to counter ban a team like them, because you said, oh, they're flexible, but if they want to prioritize Kael'thas, because he is still strong at this point, because it's on the previous patch where things like Gravity Crush are still an issue, they might have to ban that out instead, because Mene loves his mages and can really wreck with them.
The thing about that is that one of the things that we looked at when we talk about deep hero pools, Bakery, flexible, Snitch, flexible, Mene, of course, the most flexible, one of the most dominant players. This first ban Tyrael coming out here from ePunks. A little bit surprised at that one. Yeah. But the thing about that is that Alex the Pro G, his name has been brought up a lot. They were able to win and to be able to get that first regional out of the way. As we see, there's that Tracer ban we were talking about. But his hero pool is somewhat limited in the sense that they're either drafting for him or they need to be able to get something for him early. But first pick, Falstad here for ePunks.
Yeah, something we should also consider, Todd, is of course the battleground, which is Cursed Hollow, and Falstad ever so solid on most of those battlegrounds,
yeah,
right?
Global presence, being able to fly, into the fight, stay a little bit longer on the lane. Dignitas picking that very solid Muradin here early on. You talked about counter bans, but even counter picks here could come into play as well if they choose to kind of, do their own thing and try and adjust. If you know you're going to be playing against a heavy warrior composition, guys like Tychus and all that can come out to try and counter that very well too.
We've seen in so many regions where Tyrael has been able to change fights, and ePunks felt they had to ban him. I had heard from a lot of teams that Tyrael is going to be an important hero at this event, but in banning that, Tracer has to be banned from Dignitas. They don't even want to deal with her, especially because Cursed Hollow, it could be a Tracer Abathur, which is even scarier. But that does allow ePunks to get Falstad. Dignitas get Murd, and I'm wondering if we'll see Kael'thas here, if it's going to be Arthas again, if they want to just say, let's try the old way. Let's see if it still works.
I think Alex was actually one of the first guys in Europe to play a lot of Tyrael. Back then he was on Navi, and he was playing it very well. So I guess it makes sense too, when you have a guy so capable on one of those heroes to ban it if they think it could be a huge threat.
I think one of the things when we look at Tyrael is that he seems to be the new meta. We saw it in the North American region. We didn't see a ton of Tyrael in the first regional here, but I think the thing is a lot of people play Tyrael. And a lot of people play Tyrael okay, but they don't play him at that next level. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of scary is that, as Todd just mentioned, there's only so many people that can play it at that top tier.
And I mean, Tyrael is also one of those heroes that has a lot of impact on those melee-oriented team comps. There's a death bolt strategy that Dreadnought likes to talk a lot about. But getting him out of the way also makes Falstad even stronger because his Sanctification is probably one of the best countermeasures to keep everybody in place when that Mighty Gust hits the town.
Another thing I was going to mention is we're on Cursed Hollow. Zagara, always potential because she is such a good solo lane hero. And remember, you mentioned it a little bit, Jay, how she's still a bit stronger because the Infest nerf hasn't come in. It's still 150% if they pick Infest, although I had heard that a lot of people also like Volatile Acid. So we'll see which one gets picked up at level 1. But now, with that, Team Dignitas have a strong hero. They have really good control if they choose Ma.
This right here, KT, Kael'thas, and Falstad play directly, and ETC. This plays right into everything that they love. They have Falstad on this map, extremely powerful. He's a great player. They've already got Raid Boss and Nick underway with those heroes. It's almost interchangeable, the ones that they'll play, but then you have ETC that's going to be played there. And this is the thing. We have Crisplosion, who's probably going to be on that ETC. 75% win rate in 12 games on ETC. It's a hero that he loves to play and does really well on.
And like even just thinking in terms of, the engagements, the fights, like Gust into a potential mosh pit, and Kael'thas getting in there too. Like we've seen these actions come into play and winning fights hugely.
And I mean, Alex the Pro G played a lot of Arthas in the previous regionals. Were you happy with his results there? Do you think that's still a hero he should be focusing on?
I don't even know if it's about what he should be focused on. This is exactly what Dignitas wants in a draft on Cursed Hollow. Murd and Arthas, we talked about it before this even started. Zagara, that's going to be Snitch, who plays an amazing Zagara. And Bakery on Rhaegar, they have gotten everything that they want. So is ePunks. So it's almost like a battle of wills that's going to happen. I'm really curious what these last few picks are going to be.
It's a clash of styles, for sure. The Falstad, ETC, and Kael'thas, those are ePunks, all of them, their favorite first picks. And they got all of them at once here for this first game.
I really like the ban on Liming. It was one of the stronger range damage dealers that Dignitas could have gone for.
That deals well on the front line. You've got somebody like Arthas up there. I think we saw a lot of Leoric in Valencia. It tends to be the new meta, I think, right now in Europe. Leoric has always kind of been that weird hero. He just kind of got some reworks. He's always going to be around. He can be kind of a bully. You can kill him, but he comes back quickly. And then Jaina, something we haven't seen in a while.
That is really interesting. But quickly back to Leoric. At Valencia, Sonya was banned, in fact. But for this tournament, she is available. But her not getting picked up, but instead Jaina making an appearance for Team Dignitas here. That is very interesting. Can you elaborate on why Jaina was being selected here, guys?
Well, Jaina is going to offer a lot of control. Early in the game, too, you used to see Jaina and Arthas because she has a lot of really good damage because of her combo and the fact that she gets Frostbite right from the beginning. So they can combo those together. But there are some really good targets for Entomb. And let's not forget that Leoric is one of the best when it comes to going up against a double warrior composition because of his Drain Hope and Crushing Hope at 13.
There wasn't really that much choice, right? Because they took 2 really good range damage dealers already. And
Li Ming was banned.
Li Ming was banned, so I guess Dignitas were a little bit limited, and I think there is a lot of potential on Curse Hollow here that they actually roam, maybe, you know, with like Arthas Jaina, that could be very dangerous.
On the lockdown, getting frozen. Stuck in place, here comes Blizzard,
It's
and
gonna
it
get
hits 3 times
chilly
now.
and cold on Curse Hollow.
I think Jaina really has to pay attention where Leoric is moving to all the time, because when he has that Entomb ready, Jaina doesn't get access to any fancy blings or teleport spells.
Yeah, and it's not just Entomb. That's the problem, too. It's Entomb plus Mighty Gust. We have seen so many teams combo those together. Throw down the Entomb, gust everyone else away. As long as they're able to not get hasty with that, they have to make sure to hit the right target. Sometimes that didn't happen in qualifiers, but if they can do that, again, Arthas is a really good target for that. Jaina, too. Rhaegar Zag, like there is not a lot of escape for the members of Team Dignitas.
Yeah, mobility is very low. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about while we had a chance to look at ePunks is the fact that we mentioned the sub. They now have Nande back, and Nex was the one that was there before. Nex had a lot of kills in the few games that they played. The problem is he had a lot of deaths. And I wonder if that hindered a lot of what they were trying to accomplish. He actually, I believe, had the most deaths or the most average deaths per game. It was by far. So I'm actually curious to see how ePunks is going to look with Nande back in there.
ePunks played with Illidan a couple times over in Valencia. You guys think the second ban from Dignitas was highly justified here?
I think that it was justified enough in the fact that they got everything that they want. That guy right there, JPL, he was my MVP in Valencia. Yes, he played a lot of Muradin. That's fine. I don't care. But he played it so amazingly well that it blew my mind. He made so many plays. And the fact that they got Muradin Arthas, it lends to say that JPL is about to repeat what he did just 4 weeks ago.
So if you take ETC into consideration here on the side of ePunks, they already took one of the biggest counters, which is the Mighty Gust, away from Dignitas. If you take a look at their roster, Dignitas that is, do you think they have a lot of interrupts when it comes to dealing with those mosh pits?
You may have to use Ma, and that's not what you want to do.
No, definitely
you do
not.
not want to use Ma to stop a mosh pit, but they may have to. You are absolutely right. Arthas, no interrupt. Rhaegar can cleanse someone out to maybe interrupt after that, like Muradin out to Stormbolt it. Jaina, good luck.
It's not going to work?
Just hope you burst down ETC and kill him, but that's no easy task.
It feels like it's
Divine Palm's going to be there.
It's going to be for Dignitas at times to maybe try and engage. Say, for example, if ePunks are doing a boss, they have Gusts to work with. They might have Entombed and Mosh Pits that Dignitas needs to worry about. So it feels like they're going to have to be the ones that, I guess, play flawless, because if they take one really big fight and, you know, everything starts lining up properly for ePunks, Dignitas is going to be in trouble here.
Let's talk a little bit more about Alex the Prodigy and his Arthas, because we all know from our Hero League experience that there are several playstyles for Arthas. Do you think we're going to see Army of the Dead, which is usually the go-to choice when you're a single warrior, or do you think we can maybe see some Syndragosa action here?
I think with the potential for the Entomb and Mighty Gust, it's got to be Army of the Dead. If you can hope to just pop that the minute you see it happen and sustain
And the seven-sided maybe?
And seven-sided too, yeah. Oh, gosh.
Right.
You gotta pick that. You just gotta pick it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tricky matchup here, and I really like the spice that was added by banning Tracer away from ePunks, which forces them a little bit out of their comfort zone to play on foreign terrain. But yeah, ePunks, of course, being supported by the local audience here in Germany at Gamescom Cologne, which is actually pretty filled already, so definitely a big shout out to everybody here visiting us live. But yeah, back to the series, guys. Cursed Hollow is the first battleground, and we see Mene here
I want to see what he can do on Jhin.
Yeah, Mene.
He plays so many heroes so well. Like it's almost mind-blowing. When we have a chance to look at some stats later and we get to talk about Mene, you're going to understand that he's the best assassin in Europe by far. And it's not just one hero, it's not just two heroes, it's several heroes. So I'm really curious to see what he's going to do with this new rework Jaina.
It used to be mostly one hero, which is
all the way back then, right?
But nowadays, he's gotten better at a lot of other heroes. You can see him, play Jaina very well. Lunara, I've seen him do good things with her too. So he's improved a lot, and it's very important. You know, you talked about the star power of Dignitas and how flexible they are with some of their players and how many heroes they can play. For ePunks to draft is also very tricky against this guy, but I feel like they did a good job here for map number 1.
Yeah, even though we feel like ePunks has a really amazing draft and scary for Dignitas, they still have a lot of heroes that were some of the best for them at Valencia. They were 4 out of 4 of Zagar games of Valencia. They have Arthas too, we talked about that, Rhaegar, and then Muradin too. The Jaina is really the big question that I have. But it is Mene, of course.
Yeah, look at this guy, Snitch, by the way. Who would have thought that he would become one of the backbones of the team, right? Carrying his team with solid specialist play, especially on that Zagara. He used to be known as a very reckless player who sometimes would mess things up a little bit, especially on heroes like Zeratul. But over the course of time, he really developed into a solid ranged assassin and flex player that his teammates can rely on.
You sound like you certainly didn't expect it. But I guess he's been putting in the work, and to be honest, for him to be on top like this for such a long time really goes to show, I guess, that hard work does end up paying off, you know, no matter how good you're doing at some point.
Definitely, and I heard that the game is ready. Sorry for the short delay, guys. Our casters are eager to get their first best of 3 in as well. So without further ado, let's throw it over to Kaldor and Kalaris.
That's right, thank you very much. Our first series of the day, Dignitas, the current reigning European champions, go up against ePunks here, who are looking to prove themselves in Group A and try and move on. They have their full roster, Kaldor, here.
Yeah, it's actually going to be really interesting. They were super disappointed after Valencia. They said, yeah, it was a bit tricky for us to play with a substitute player that had to join us short notice. Now they finally have the full roster here. And I can't wait to see what they can pull against a team like Dignitas, because let's face it, 3 out of 4 championships, regional ones that they were able to win, that's not too bad.
That is good. All right, we are getting into game number 1 to start things here. It will be on Cursed Hollow here between Dignitas and ePunks. As, of course, for me, I'm looking out to see how Dignitas is going to incorporate their very true, tried and tested draft here, Kaldor.
Yeah, and well, as we can already see, we have in this case Snitch playing as Zagara, JBL on Muradin, Alex at the front line together with him on Arthas, Mene with Jaina this time, so the Frost Mage has been drafted here, and Bakery on the support, of course, once again, he's playing Rhaegar.
Of course, and then over to the other side, it will be ePunks with Nanda playing Leoric, Chris playing ETC, Nick will be playing Kael'thas, Wolf Joe on Karazin, and finally Raid Boss on Falstad here for the all-German lineup.
I actually like the drafts quite a bit. We've already talked a little bit while the draft was happening about especially Dignitas getting more or less exactly what they want here. It was a bit interesting to see that ban on Illidan though, since they already have 2 heroes that are absolutely fantastic against him. But I'm also curious to see how ePunks is going to try and put especially that Leoric into play here.
Yeah, it seems to have gained a little bit more momentum with the fact that the double warrior thing is now a thing. And in fact, some of the teams are even prioritizing Leoric way higher than actually like a 5th pick, for example. But going up against Dignitas, they have everything they want in this draft.
Another thing that we're also seeing, of course, is that Jaina. And Jaina in particular is all of a sudden getting a lot more traction. I expect to see her a lot in this tournament. If you've been watching scrims, then you know that she is one of the favorite heroes also of Meno, of course. He was always a fan of her. And he even goes with a machine gun build in the first level, not for Conjurer's Pursuit, which is usually something that we see. It is Winter's Reach instead.
Yeah, and then if he couples that up with, as you say, the machine gun build towards level 7, gains a little bit of mana back when he's able to hit some of those. And this poke from Snitch with Jay and Mene just waiting in the bush, trying to bait out the attack on towards Snitch, but not to be the case. It is Infest as the first choice here for Snitch.
Yeah, and that is actually one of those things where a lot of the European teams have a bit of different opinion on how to play it. In North America was always about Infest in the older patches, but in Europe it was Volatile Acid and Infest that the teams usually like chose between. With the Volatile Acid you have like this increased range on the Banelings that can give you a lot, but here's already that burst damage against Nick, and kill number 1 for Dignitas.
Yeah, very, very well done. Good first blood, and Jaina does have that kind of potential. She is able to blow things up very, very quick. The fact that her chill ability is able to stack up those extra like little crits per se, very, very testy.
I mean, back in the days when we had that Muradin Tirana together with the Jaina just roaming the map constantly throughout the entire game, there was this serious part of it. But right now they're doing something very similar. They have Muradin as a stun. He tries to go in together with Jaina. She's attempting, of course, to get all that damage in. And that's a good approach. But also Raid Boss up at the top lane, having a bit of trouble here against Alex.
Yeah, not the easiest to deal with, apparently. But the thing is that Falstad normally is okay against an opposite 1v1. So a little bit of a misplay by Raid Boss.
One of the pros that you, of course, have going up against the Falstad Fawcett is that it's very tricky for you to kind of win the lane. You can't really do it since Fawcett can just simply be back to the base, fly in again. He's never going to lose the XP here, but of course he wants to push Arthur's back, and so far that wasn't really possible for him.
Already sneaky rotation from JPL and Mene up towards maybe even the easy camp here, as they're just going to time that out and try and get that synced up with the idea of a tribute coming up in a little bit.
So 2 minutes into the game, we have the Siege Giants spawning, and both of the teams are going for them. The big idea behind it is that if the tribute spawns on the opposite side of the map, you more or less get a free tribute, or you will be able to just like push with that lane against a few of the structures. So it's a win-win. It's a bit at random to see which team gets the advantage here, but we're going to see that any second now as the tribute is about to spawn, and it is top lane, which in this case favors ePunks.
Yeah, and Zagara is actually something that does counter that quite well in the early game, that initial push, because they did a little bit of damage towards the bottom, because they have a Zagara in tow. It kind of equalizes things out if this fight is to go on for a little bit longer. But of course, as you say, if time goes on for quite a prolonged period of time, it definitely will favor them.
Yeah, Zagara actually staying at the bot lane for that very reason, up here to the top. Therefore, we have a 5 versus 4 any second now as the teams are going for the first tribute. Dignitas has to be careful here. They're trying to buy Zagara some time without losing any heroes, but all of a sudden JPL is in trouble, and he's taken down Hopelessness, giving him the rest here. Very well done here. Leoric with a kill, and the ePunks therefore tying up the kill count.
Yeah, good chain stun. So overall, the Gravity Lab's able to connect at just the right time from Kael'thas, but all the while, Snitch has been sat down here. For all intents and purposes, losing Muradin isn't great, but they almost knew that they were guaranteed to lose that tribute.
They get a lot of value out of Zagara at the bot lane either way, since she was able to just push this lane in together with the Infest and the Medusa plates. There was no problem for her whatsoever. I could have actually seen Raid Boss trying to fly down with his False Set and attempting to simply just push her back a bit earlier.
Yeah.
They decided against it and rotated Kael'thas down, which took longer, and therefore they lost even more structures.
And good old Arthur's build coming in with Biting Cold at level 4. Normally in Europe we see Icebound Fortitude going over towards level 7. There are a little bit of mix sometimes at level 1, with Block being chosen here for Alex quite often. Then we see the Icebound, so it gives him a little bit more strength.
Alex is a massive fan of Icebound Fortitude. When you hear him talk about Arthur's, then you realize, okay, this is the one talent to go for here. Other teams have sometimes a bit of a different priority here. Rune Tap is still an option, but Alex always going for the Icebound Fortitude. And we see the full machine gun build currently on the side of Jaina. Frost shots taken on level 4, going into the Icelands here too. That's exactly what you expect. You have to hit your still shots, but if you do, you get so much value out of it.
Yeah, ideally you would like to maybe catch them with a Blizzard or a Cone of Cold before, so then you can really start chaining them super fast. But it is very, very powerful if you do have a chill effect on anything.
Muradin, of course, going for the Asian sustain build that we are seeing here, trying to get the synergy out of his level 4, level 7, and 13 talent with the Thunderburn and the Iron Forge momentum. It's all about the cooldown reduction here and getting that second clap in so that later on, after 13, you get that healing. You want to be in the middle of the fight amongst as many opponent heroes as possible, and then you will just like live on forever.
And then it opens up so much room for 16, because you don't have to go stone form, which is great. You can go in for impact to then sync up your stuns really nicely.
I'm not even sure if they're going for it. I mean, look at this lineup that they're running. They could go in to give him the X quite easily. They have a Jaina in this setup. They have an Arthur's. Like, you get so much damage out of Muradin if you just simply go for give him the Axe. It really depends on what JPL feels they need the most. Do they need the additional stun, or do they need a bit more damage?
And speaking of damage, I mean, level 7 Bile drop for Zagara is something that stacks up very fast when it comes to damage. It's quite impactful, to say the least.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that. And also, if you look at Leoric, just a bit different. He actually did not go for Hopelessness on level 1. He instead decided to go for the reanimation here, and also for the Ghastly Reach, with still going into the Hardened Bones on level 4. It's a bit of an old school build, actually.
Yeah.
This is the build that Alex used to run on Dragonshire.
Yeah, it's very old school. I was expecting against a double warrior, and you see it quite often, is a more full Drain Hope build to just try and bring them down, or even have a lot of strong stability at the front. I do like Hardened Bones, but you sacrifice different things for it with the Drain buffs that came along 2 patches ago.
I like the Drain Hope build a lot as well, and I expected it to come into play here once that we saw that double front line again for Dignitas. Within Arthur's and JPL on Muradin, we have just so many targets here. Dignitas is playing a fantastic game here, by the way. I mean, they took the boss now, they're getting the pressure at the bot lane together with the Zagara. They rotate 3 heroes in the middle. They get value on all lanes at this point, and you see them with that early level 10 here. A huge lead for them already.
And what's important to know, different variations from Europe to NA, we'll probably see more here than we saw Nidus over in America. That's a good catch, though.
Yeah, that's a really nice approach against Snitch, and Snitch goes down. Job well done. The fort at the bot lane is still alive. And you talk about differences between like North America and Europe. Another one is that Jaina is going for the Ring of Frost here.
Ah, yes. So, you know, able to kind of sync up those abilities and get some catches maybe.
Hit heroes in the first place.
Yeah, that would be...
Shots fired.
Shots fired. All right, well, we had the Stormbolt fired there at Chris. Didn't quite catch him, though. He's just going to move away. At least they're able to get that one pick on Zagara. It slowed them down a little bit. Maybe they can pick this up because of that.
I mean, all the jokes aside, if you go for the Ring of Frost with Jaina, what they are looking for is, of course, to burst targets in the backline away. You can set up with more. You can ideally, of course, get that lockdown with Arthas, with Muradin, and then Jaina goes in, drops the Ring of Frost, gets all that Blizzard damage in, and you're in a fantastic spot. Right now, we see the game actually shift a little bit. With ePunks reaching level 10, they have access to their abilities too, and they were able to get another tribute, which in this case cursed the blue team. So Dignitas is all of a sudden falling slightly behind in experience, and this is a moment where the ePunks can actually have a huge impact on the remaining time of the game.
Yeah, they've moved very aggressively. They knew that was going to die from minions. They wanted to get as much value as possible. One thing also to point out from that Ring of Frost is look out for extreme wombo potential between Maw and Ring of Frost. We're seeing a lot of Europe at the moment going for things like even Void Prism into Ring of Frost, maybe later on down the line.
Very, very old school, but still so scary and so effective. But look at the ePunks here, super aggressive. The German team at the bot lane right now, trying to go for the keep. They're moving through. It's another 13 seconds on the core. Mighty Gust already used as the Entomb comes down. The Maw on the back line against ETC. Mosh may not use it, but here's the Ring of Frost. They're trying to take it down. The cleanse is great. The palm even used, but not triggered. Falsa goes down on the other hand, and now Dignitas is chasing the ePunks.
That cleanse was so clutch on towards Chris. It's not too often that you can catch even multiple people caught in that. They were lucky it was only one person caught, so that they obviously had one cleanse, but still they're on the retreat here. Dignitas still on the chase.
Yeah, ePunks in trouble. Kalthas goes down. That's the second kill. They have the 13 talent, but they can't capitalize on it, and Dignitas is chasing them down one by one. But you're so right, Kales. That cleanse was just absolutely important. Without it, ETC would have fallen. And you could really tell that Karazim, even with a cleanse, was worried, was thinking, he's still gonna die. I need to use the palm right now. It didn't trigger, so in hindsight, he could have held it just a little bit longer. But in that moment, it really looked like Dignitas would completely collapse on ETC and take him down.
Yeah, it was kind of, unfortunately for Mene, I mean, only catching one person is not great. Mene was in a position where he had to run back after being gusted, but regardless, that is done now, and it will be the hard camp moving on through the middle towards for Dignitas. Muradin even checking boss location and maybe trying to roll onto Falstad. He's got to be very careful here, this Ray boss.
Hydralisk Transfusion, by the way, on level 13 for Zagara, so trying to get a bit more of a sustain in this as well. We have the healing static now for Muradin, which kind of completes that synergy of the build that we've been talking about earlier. So he's going to try to be deep in the back line and dish out that damage. We can really look forward to that. And at the same time, Rhaegar went actually in the Earth Shield. And in this setup, this is of course like meant to keep a target alive for a bit longer so they can get the Ancestral in here as well. But I really like in this game, I mean, we didn't have too many kills just yet, but if you look how close the teams are at this point, this is going to be a pretty interesting late game for sure.
That Gust not really required there, as they were judging maybe he would barrel roll towards the bottom of the fort. He actually barrel rolled up against the fort, so Falstad was okay even without that Gust. And now they're just going to have to look for something else. The thing is when Dignitas is setting up for something like that, you've got to think, what else are they sacrificing? There's 4 people up there. They do sacrifice a little of experience for not getting anything towards the top.
And just look at the minimap right now. We have Arthas at the bot lane for that very reason. They committed with 5 heroes to the top, so they couldn't depush the bot lane before. Now the tributary is spawning, and this could be another tribute in the hands of the ePunks. Leoric had to move out there. Arthas finally done with the Siege Giants at the bot lane, but we have Wolfjaw already starting the channel.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for them to get on towards this. JPL has to jump on out of there. Sweden spreading bomb over towards Snitch. Got to be careful.
Great Phoenix placement here as well. You have the opponent just funnel through the area of effect if they really try to contest. They can't do this. Here comes Chris Explosion. Great kill against Zagara. Well done. The Maw is too late. Can they capitalize on it? It doesn't look like it, especially now. The combo with the Entomb and the Mighty Gust, but the Ancestral Heal is hitting Alex. On the other hand, that Ring of Frost doing nothing for them.
They caught Snitch in the perfect position there. Mene wasn't able to even follow up the desperation more because he was so zoned out by the rest of ePunks, so they didn't even let it turn around in any situation.
Dignitas actually got lucky in that moment. When that Entomb and the Gust also hit, that could have been way worse for them. If all of a sudden Rhaegar is not able to just get in range to drop that Ancestral, they might lose a second hero here, and then all of a sudden the bosses are wide open on the map. In this situation, you can see that ePunks, even though they have the advantage on the map, aren't even going for it because they're saying, guys, this this is a little bit too scary. Let's just not risk this here. We are currently just leading by a tiny little bit. We have the momentum going on the map. Let's not ruin this by throwing at a boss.
And they might continue with the momentum. Of course, Team Dignitas right now is close to level 16, but look at the cooldowns of the heroics at the moment. When challenging this tribute, there is the potential here that ePunks, having the majority of their heroics up, are able to wrestle this away from Dignitas.
Especially since we haven't really seen any big moshs yet. And this is going to be pretty crucial because there are only very few interrupts on the side of Dignitas. And at this point, Crisplosion is holding the mosh back as a constant threat against the opponent. Once again, here comes the slide. They're going for it. They're trying to move in. We have the cleanse on Muradin. Here comes the Mighty Gust. Crisplosion is a bit low, but they get Jaina, but they don't have the damage as a follow-up.
Yeah, they're all kind of out of position there, and even Kelpas has to get turned around on there from Mene, who's able to blow him up very quickly. Ring of Frost is able to catch a few of them, and even on towards Leoric as well. He does not have Wraith Walk. He will not get away, and that is a pretty good fight for Dignitas. They delayed long enough for the heroics to be back up in a 40-second window there.
And that was just such an awkward moment for Keltas. Leoric goes in, drops the Entomb, gets the hero they're looking for.
Yeah.
Keltas looks at this and is like, well, I'm the only damage dealer, but I don't have hit points. Do I do it or not? He's still in range, gets taken out, and now Dignitas is running with it. They have the 16 talent, they take the boss, they can go double boss if they want to. Now the momentum turn in their favor again, and let's keep in mind that they have also 2 tributes, and the next one could potentially curse the ePunks.
Yeah, this is going to get scary for them, definitely. They don't have level 16 yet. They're just going to try and wrestle that away from them and buy some time. But of course, that boss is so important right now.
Also, the 16 talent, we have given the axe now with all those slows that exist. This is just absolutely fantastic. You have the Frozen Tempest on Arthas. You have still Jaina, of course, with all of her abilities that can help out here. And they need a little bit more sustainable damage. They have Jaina for the burst, but Zagara is not necessarily the best hero if you want to have sustainable damage during a long fight. Murden, on the other hand, he can really help out with that now.
ePunks have orchestrated this well. They've left Falstad towards the bottom to clean the boss up because they know he can rotate around quickly if they need him for a clutch fight against this boss. And they actually delayed Dignitas against this boss. So well played by ePunks, despite them being in a bit of a sketchy situation.
Yeah, you have to, of course, always be careful of that mosh pit again. Like, the lack of interrupts on the side of Dignitas is going to be a problem. They have very few that they can really use here, so they have to be cautious. Falstad flies back up to the top. This is a curse that's really important. Already Nanda up at the front on his Leoric. Chris is looking for an opportunity to maybe get the mosh in and eating a lot of damage from Main in particular now, though. Slides in, doesn't drop the mosh pit just yet. They still have the bomb here, but the more and also the Ring of Frost at the same time.
Yeah, he used to before them all there and actually catches them anyway. They will be able to get out. They could have done massive damage to ePunks there as they're just going to move away. They're still quite low. Baker's trying to channel that. He does have central heal on towards Alex, but Alex is taking big damage. Both the tanks are going to go down there with ETC also falling. Dignitas is going to roll this.
ETC also wasted his mosh pit here. I think he was supposed to be palm, but it didn't really work out the way they wanted to. And it still ends up being a massively trade in favor of Dignitas. 3 kills against the ePunks, and this is a fantastic position. They can time the curse now. They can go for the boss if they want to and time the curse, but we still have to remember that Leoric, of course, is going to respawn here on point.
Yeah, and he'll have to move away for a little bit as well there. So he does get away from that position. Not too sketchy, not too scary, but they've cursed them. So that's a great position here for Dignitas.
I actually like that Dignitas just went for the curse and didn't try to get the boss as well. This is one of those moments, especially with Leoric being against you, where you can actually lose at a boss or be delayed too long and all of a sudden you get neither. So I actually like that they just said, okay guys, let's go. Let's not get greedy here.
Yeah.
We just took a massive lead. Just get the curse, try to run with that, increase the lead, try to just snowball it a little bit towards level 20 so that we get the Storm Talents first and we can grab the win there.
I mean, to be honest, for Team Dignitas, this tournament is an extreme boot camp. An extreme boot camp, testing out their mettle against their current European rivals and opponents, etc. And so far, you know, in this game, they've got everything they wanted in draft. They're looking at a little bit of miscommunication between Mene and Snitch in terms of those heroics, but, you know, I'm sure that'll kind of iron things out as time goes on.
I mean, if you're talking about, like, we talked a little bit during the draft also about Jaina in particular, and I mean, currently she's at 43,000 hero damage. If you compare that to the top damage dealer on the side of the ePunks, we have Falstad on 28k, Keltas on 22,000, so Jaina really taking the price here. But once again, the engagement, trying to use that Entomb to take Snitch down. The Ancestor goes through. Here comes Reed again with that Jaina. The Ring of Frost hits, and it hits hard. A triple kill against the ePunks, and this could be the beginning of the end.
You could see in that fight, ETC was trying to stop Mene from getting towards where that Maul was because he knew Ring of Frost was going to be coming up. He tried to push her away. Wasn't enough. Mene closed in and got that good Ring of Frost to actually guarantee kills.
Yeah, they get the keep and they go for core, obviously. It's another 30 30 seconds that they have before ETC and Calvas are back. They're trying to go for it. It's looking good for Dignitas. They're committing fully to the core now. Falstad is also dead, and this should be it.
It will be. Dignitas will take game number 1 here as they try to get cleaned up, but it's not going to be the case. ePunks will fall in this first one to start things off in Germany, but overall, they had some moments. There was the potential that they were going to kind of move along with that. It's kind of around that level 16 fight where I said that they had all of the heroics. Dignitas delayed for a long time, and from there, they lost momentum.
And especially after they were able to pick up the level 13 and 16 talent for Muradin, that had a huge impact on the game. Before that, Muradin was threatened oftentimes, but after Healing Static came into play, the sustainability on the hero was fantastic. Then you get 16, and all of a sudden they have the damage to really take these targets out. And you have to question that second ban that we had for the ePunks. Would it have been better to go for a ban on Arthas here?
Yeah, it's definitely something that they have to consider. We already saw in Valencia, the Muradin Arthas comp from Team Dignitas was very, very strong. And then looking at it here, once again, equally as strong. Not like any change up in builds. At level 13, you can even go Trail of Frost here instead of going for, you know, something that you would need to deal with melee assassins, etc. So you found such good comfort in it. And they have great comfort in it.
It's definitely one of the things that we have to watch out for when we're going into the second draft, because it's one of the strengths that Dignitas ran, as you said, within Valencia. And they are doing exactly the same strategies here again. They added Jaina on top of that, and with that strong front line, it's also very difficult to approach the ranged assassin in the back line.
All right, well, we are going to go to a break, but when we are back, it will be game number 2 here between Dignitas and ePunks.
Here we are back for this first best of 3 between Dignitas and the ePunks. It's currently 1-0 in favor of the, if you will, favorite here for Team Dignitas. That is a very clutch game, but in the end, Team Dignitas just pulled away and ePunks were not able to keep up. One thing we were actually questioning a little bit was the execution of their team comp, especially the lack of 7-side really hurt them at some points, Gilly.
Yeah, the combination is in tune with Mighty Gust and the 7-side strike to burn the person down. They didn't have 7-sided, but also this is something that I mentioned earlier on, is that they have had impatience in trying to execute that comp before, and you could see it there. Sometimes they would entomb it, and Gust was down or wasn't ready for some reason, or Falstad wasn't in place, and so they really didn't always have the best execution of that. But the Ring of Frost, though, to counter it was beautiful.
There was a lot of counters, I think, that we saw. You know, there was a little bit of anti-synergy at times between Maw and Ring. There was a few weird things that happened, so maybe a little bit rusty early on for Dignitas, but they pulled out some killer team fights. I mean, they showed their dominance. You know, they had a few questionable moments. ePunks, I think, played really well. It's just Dignitas, obviously the better team in game number 1.
I really like the early game of ePunks. They took first tribute, they fell behind a little bit on XP. They were like, we're going to give out second one. There were a lot of mature decisions about this. And then later on, they get the curse because they set up better for that third one for them. And Dignitas were late. they go to the bottom lane, and that's when things started going wrong for them. They used Phoenix way too early. They entombed the single HotS that was next to his keep. That was like, what?
Yeah.
And then Dignitas were like, well, I guess that's our cue, right? They went in and did a lot of damage, and then from there really started getting momentum and coming back into it. So they showed some good things, but when you have a team like this who's the new team to try and reach the top, I guess it takes more than just a good early game for them to win.
And of course, we can now take a closer look at some of the highlights from this very first game. And who else than Jayhow taking you through it?
Well, this is there we go. This is one of the team fights where things just kind of blew wide open. The power slide directly in by ETC is kind of what initiated this, and there's the Mighty Gust to try and get out of here. The Entomb was perfect because it's helping to zone the team out. It allows them to stay a little bit safe. The odd thing is they continue to fight. They're so low on health that the minute we see the turnaround, that's a beautiful Ancestral coming out from Bakery. Even though Alex does go down, they get the trade, and then the follow-up from Dignitas as they continue the assault. There's JPL making the plays that I talked about on Murden, getting over. I mean, there's just so much. I think, again, there was some anti-synergy. I think that they were trying to force them off, maybe, trying to get everything out. The Entomb on ePunks side was good, and it really helped zone them out. It allowed them to stay in the fight. It just, Dignitas, the minute everything reset, they just put the pressure on and laid the hammer down literally with Murden.
One thing, too, that was kind of a common theme is Chrisplosion having a heck of a time getting in from mosh pits. We talked about how there weren't a lot of interrupts, but he would take so much damage that he would be really low. And as we saw even in that one, just go in and like, I'm ready, guys, let's mosh. Oh.
Wait a minute.
Or not. Yeah, and that was kind of common, is how difficult it was for him to really be able to get in there and get that mosh pit down.
But of course, guys, the cards are going to be shuffled anew in this second battleground, which is, by the way, going to be none other than Towers of Doom. Not really a battleground that we see too often, but when we see it, it's going to be very explosive and very dramatic because you cannot rush the core. You will have to play it all the way until the very end, until the last altar takes down the core eventually.
The cool thing that I like about Towers of Doom, a lot of people are like, it's kind of boring and all that stuff because you don't rush the core. But what it does when you talk about that, the altars, it forces team fights. Like, you're forced to fight. You can't just give them up if you just continue to give them up all game. Yeah, you can play some rotations and strategies, but it's actually a lot more exciting, I think, than people give it credit for because of that nature in the team fights.
And that first and fifth altar phase 2 is really scary because you see this beautiful decision making too, but I feel like the later it goes, the closer as you see its teams come back to, the more explosive this map can be.
And also, Towers of Doom prioritizes other heroes than, for example, Cursed Hollow or Infernal Shrines. We see the Lost Vikings, for example, possibly making an entrance here. Do you think that either of those teams actually plays one of those niche heroes very well?
Personally, I feel like from these two, it's not particularly likely, but there is a lot of good heroes, that are even better on this map than they would be on other maps. Personally, I'm a big fan of Limming, be able to shoot like from so far, interrupt the opponents when they're trying to get some of these shots off. So
also global mobility, very important here.
Yeah, Sylvanas can be really good as well, so if you want to push in.
And Tracer.
Oh.
This is a good Tracer
But she's going to
map.
get banned, so.
Yeah, I think that there's no way we see Dig let her through, but I guess we'll have to see.
I believe it's first pick for Dignitas this time around. So
yes. It's ePunks map choice for a reason.
What's going to be interesting as we see they've got their notes, we've got ours. I'm curious what theirs say versus. I'm going to go talk to Alex. You want to trade notes? But no, one of the things that we saw Falstad get through in game number 1. I highly doubt he'll get through the first ban phase here. He's one of the strongest heroes on this map by far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see so many cool strats on Towers of Doom. Even heroes like Dehaka, for example, like Falstad, you mentioned the global mobility, really comes into play a lot because you have to be at many different spots at the same time. And Todd, the draft just started.
Yeah. And Jaina actually could come into play again. I don't feel like this was a one-time thing. It just seems solid in general from, solid. The pick and the win. There were a few Ring of Frost that were borderline, but Falstad gets banned here, as you called it. So that means that Tracers could be left available here, potentially.
There's the Lost Vikings ban, keeping it out of the hands. I wouldn't be surprised if Dignitas locks in an early Kael'thas pick, getting Mene, his hero of choice, one of the strongest assassins in this patch that we're playing on. Wouldn't be surprised if they go that, but we've seen the priority to try and fill those roles.
Yeah.
Or people like Alex, and there's a Tyrael pick.
Super cool. I mean, Tyrael enables just so many melee heroes. His Sanctification counters so many other abilities on the opposite side as well. He's a jack of all trades when it comes to warriors, and he fits into many different team comps. Also, something I wanted to highlight for all those of you guys who just tuned in, we're not playing on the Oriole patch, so don't worry, we're not going to see her. It's going to be back to Gul'dan's state of the game, which is why Kel'Thuz is actually still being prioritized as he was in the last game.
Gilly, do you think they're going to prioritize Kel'Thuz or Greymane this high?
I kind of
feel like
was
they need to
wondering
lock in
about
one.
Greymane because it is Tyrael. But I don't know. They have been playing him some. Mene showing that he can play at Greymane. I believe that even Snitch could too.
I have 12 games for Mene on Greymane.
Yeah.
He's got an 83% win rate on
That's pretty
Greymane.
high.
That's not bad.
But
It's
yeah,
actually
with
his highest
Tyrael,
win rate.
They could look at something like, I don't know, Greymane Uther. I know that Uther isn't as hot
Muradin
in
again,
EU
maybe,
here in
too?
NA.
Muradin again, picked early on. What do you guys think?
I mean, you can never really go wrong with a Muradin.
I almost feel like a Nubarak might be the one of choice. It pairs well against somebody like Li Ming because of that dampen magic at level 1. And it pairs
Also the
well
beetles,
with
you know,
Tyrael.
intercepting sometimes, right?
Yeah, it allows him to get interrupts. It allows him to dive the backline if they decide to dive and they pick up a hero like Greymane. Then you have that dive comp sort of with a Nubarak, Tyrael, and then if they opt to go Greymane. If they don't go Greymane here, then they go Kel'Thuz, then we might not see a Nubarak. I still think it's on the board. I'd be curious if ePunks doesn't ban it out, though, if it gets through here.
Right.
What about, we're going to see Dignitas banning Tracer now at this point?
Hard to say. I mean, the fact that ePunks didn't really prioritize Tracer that early on maybe is supposed to sort of confuse Dignitas, but it could also be like, depending on their next picks, I think we're going to see whether they're going to lock in a Tracer last to sort of hide it and preventing Dignitas from taking counters. But it's really interesting to see like whether they're really afraid of Tracer, Dignitas that is, or if they're just going to be like, nope, we can take you on even with your favorite pick.
Well, one of the things that we see on Towers of Doom sometimes, they're prioritizing Abathur. I think that could be lending in. If we don't see a Greymane ban here from ePunks, I'm going to be worried.
That's a dead giveaway almost.
Okay.
What about Illidan, though?
Yeah.
Illidan is also a possibility.
There's so many things that are scary with that now. Illidan.
Sonya even.
Do they play Illidan? I don't think Dignitas plays Illidan at all. I think
Snitch has played him once at Valencia.
And how did that go?
Did not win.
I think it was against former Lion Sanity, right?
There's the Greymane ban.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
So now it's going to be a very exciting moment. Are we going to see a Tracer ban once more, or does Dignitas really say, you know what, we're going to give ePunks their favorite weapon?
There's one more point I want to make, and that's we saw Jaina in the last game. Maybe not wanting to pick her again, but before we had a lot of Abathurs cloning Jaina because the double Jaina damage, unreal. Yeah, a long time ago, so I don't know.
How about Zeratul? What do you guys think?
You mean as a counter to Abathur or on the side of Dignitas?
Yeah, for Dignitas maybe, or just maybe even in general in these tournaments.
I don't see them playing Zeratul at least that much.
Snitch used to play a lot of Zeratul back in the days, but
Snitch is the one, I think, that if we were going to see, that's going to be the one. Tracer was the ban, so not allowing Tracer through, keeping things on even footing. Now, I wonder if ePunks is still going to feel comfortable going into, say, that double warrior front line, if it's something that we're going to see, or they're going to go towards something maybe a little bit more traditional, whether we're going to see a melee hero coming out. I'm kind of curious what ePunks is going to go with, because when you look at Raid Boss and you look at Nick, they like these strong heroes. I think one of them is going to be on Sylvanas, but when you look at the other two, they tend to play a lot of warriors. And I just wonder if that's going to be their strategy with their last pick.
If ePunks get an early on lead here with Sylvanas and Li Ming to be able, to push in, they might be able to do get really far ahead. Like Dignitas are gonna have to be careful, not to start on falling behind. Kind of like they did last game, when ePunks landed the curse.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. We have another Muradin, as we earlier mentioned. And we all remember, I think it was at Valencia, I can't remember the player who it was. Was it even JPL who just refused to die with an Abathur hat on top and the healing static? I mean, they were close to being unkillable on that Muradin.
And shields.
And shields, absolutely.
And radar heals. Yeah, that's scary.
Air shield later on, going to make it even harder.
So that brings in some damage.
Kel'Thuz wasn't picked yet here.
It's just really weird because you've got Abathur, and he's going to be great for zoning. He's going to have the mines everywhere around the map. Abathur's actually pretty decent on this map. It's just a matter of Dignitas still has to find a way to win team fights. They have great control with what you guys just talked about, great sustainability, but they have to be able to do some damage.
Who is Mene playing?
That's a good question.
Wait.
I mean,
did Tracer get switched to Jaina?
Oh, Tracer got switched to
All
Jaina.
right. I'm not sure. We actually don't have an update whether Tracer was the correct ban or if Jaina is now the one that is locked in. It wouldn't really make sense for
Maybe
Dignitas to
Jaina
ban
was
Jaina,
picked,
right?
yeah, Jaina
There we go. Okay, there we go.
Double Jaina,
All
baby. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, now we got the problem solved.
Yeah,
there
I
we
think
go.
they were just talking about their damage dealer with Mene and stuff, and probably arguing, you know, the case of is it going to be Kael'thas or Jaina? What would be better? And I guess they made up their mind here.
So I want to talk about Wolf Joe on the side of ePunks and his Karazim. Last game didn't really convince me too much. What about you guys? Do you think that Karazim is actually a good pick here in this scenario? Can Wolf Joe make it work? Oh, he's being reinforced here.
Okay.
Hi, Tassadar.
I guess they want to have a little bit more sustainability. Like there's going to be some good pushing power with this too. Some good poke to cancel.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
safe poke to stop any of the tributes being picked up, or altars being picked up. But
I almost feel like, you know, Gilly, you talked about it last game, is the fact that every time we saw ETC go in, he had taken so much damage. I think if you kind of have him pre-shielded or you're able to supply some shields for the big damage that Jaina is able to bring down, that it might enable him to make a little bit more plays, especially with those mosh pits.
Well, how about the amount of interrupts that they have, like here, Dignitas against mosh pits? They did fine last game, but
Yeah, not really that many.
they're not. I feel like they're not respecting ETC here to as much as perhaps they should be, especially on a map like this, where I can come in from behind, from like a bush or something, slide in.
But they could sink people out of that, and then jump in with 2 Jainas and just melt ETC, melt anybody. But the Tassadar shielding will help with that for sure.
I was going to say, that's probably the reason why we see a Tassadar, is to help against that double Jaina burst later on when the Abathur copy is actually being used. So it's a very interesting way to sort of go against it. I mean, you can't really burst Abathur down during a team fight because he's mostly hidden. So I think going for more additional support might actually be a good recipe to deal with him.
Especially when you look at Jaina.
Right, especially
the thing that's gonna interest me the most is we know what Mene brings to the table on Jaina, and then I guess it would be Snitch playing Abathur?
Yeah.
So if we see that, it's gonna be more about placements of Blizzards. Are they stacking them? Are they trying to zone to make sure they get the most value? Because it's 3 Blizzards that are coming down. And there's so much value, I think, out of placement, zoning even, to put as much damage and blow up one hero as you can. And I think that's definitely why the Tassadar is there. This is the new meta, guys. This is things that we don't see. Jaina coming out here, she got reworked not too long ago. She hasn't been played terribly, but Mene is showing, hey, maybe the rest of the world should be rethinking
Still got what it
Jaina
takes
right
to
now.
claim a blonde baby. I mean, the other blonde baby, Kael'thas, is not being chosen this time, right? I mean, all right, but let's talk about the battleground here. Towers of Doom and Abathur. Do you think it's a good battleground for him to go for that mine build that is ever so feared, constantly giving vision, poking down enemies while they're moving from objective to objective?
I think it can be, but you guys touched on how we saw, you know, some survivability also, you know, being added on in there before for Muradin to, you know, do very well. So lots of possibilities here, really. I guess we see Ultimate Evolution no matter what, like you guys already talked about that. But if they start falling behind is what really worries me here. Dignitas against Liming and Sylvanas together being able to push in Tassadar as well. They're going to have a lot of vision. Even if Abathur actually even gets close to a wall, maybe a Storm and a Wailing Arrow in his face to remind him that he needs to stay away from the fight.
I think the biggest thing is going to be the play of Li Ming on the side of ePunks. I mean, that's going to be the #1 thing because you're facing double warrior. You've got to find angles and you've got to find a way to blow up those heroes. That's going to be the biggest question.
The mosh pits are going to be very important too.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many dangerous things coming in from the team composition here that ePunks is rocking. But for now, guys, the second game in the first best of 3 here at the second European Regionals, live from Gamescom Cologne, is going to be brought to you by Kalaris and Calder right now. So we're excited. The casters are excited, so let's not keep them waiting any longer.
Game number 2, everybody. Dignitas going up against the ePunks, and the German team is behind after Dignitas was able to take them down on Cursed Hollow.
Yes, they are, and let's see if they're going to be able to bring it back against a double warrior Abathur Jaina. Abathur Jaina, we saw it a lot in the past, and it can be very, very scary when you've got 2 Jainas running at you. But for now, obviously they needed something for Mr. Mene towards the end of that draft. So it's rare you see double warrior with an Abathur. Actually, normally you see one or the other.
Yep.
But I mean, Dignitas can definitely pull it off.
There are a couple of really interesting synergies with this. I mean, in this case, for example, Abathur could also just like go for a support build again to allow Muradin after 16 to dish out that sustainable damage during the team fight. The Toxic Nest were another option that were already discussed at Diana's desk. So I'm actually really liking that setup. It's very flexible in the way that they can build their heroes and adapt a bit to what they are facing here. But if we're looking once again at the ePunks, they really like that ETC, this time with a double support behind him to make it a bit easier for him to go into the opponent's team and land that mosh pit that they were missing on Cursed Hollow.
All right, well, it's time to get into game number 2 here between Team Dignitas and ePunks. Dignitas leading 1 at the moment, and to the left-hand side, we will have Snitch on Abathur, JPL on Muradin, Alex the Prodigy on Tyrael, Mene playing Jaina, and Bakery on Rehgar. They are Team Dignitas.
And of course, to the right side, the German team down 1 game in the series. It's the ePunks with Tacita, played by Nande. Chris Blosian again on the ETC at the front line. Nick playing Li Ming this time. Wolfjo again on Karazim. And Raid Boss is playing Sylvanas.
All right, time to see how this is going to go down. Towers of Doom has become rapidly one of my favorite maps since it's kind of release overall, and it's just an interesting map to watch. Like there's a lot less room for you in the middle of the map to be moving around. That's why maybe you sometimes don't see that much Illidan played out here, but you see some interesting comps. And Tyrael, I'm happy he got through, man. We're going to see a lot of him this tournament.
The one thing that always fascinates me about Towers of Doom play when you compare Europe and North America once again is the high priority that Europe has on the Lost Vikings.
Yeah.
You very rarely see them here because they always get banned immediately when the map is being played, whereas North America oftentimes just disregards the hero completely and ignores it.
Yeah, don't even ban it.
Yeah.
Do you know how tilted I was last North American when I was on that couch?
I can't imagine.
Oh, gee, well, yeah. But maybe one day they'll like it. They don't particularly like it.
They have just a different style then. I mean, it's working out well for them, but of course, in Europe, the Vikings are forced to be reckoned with. This is one of the reasons why they were banned out in this game right away. In this case, now we already see that Abathur, Snitch, he is going for a bit of a different build, not focusing on the Toxic Nest. I like it. It is the pressurized glance. He has the chance now, of course, to go for a full support build to allow, especially Muradin then later on, to get all that damage in with Give Him the Axe.
Yeah, definitely. And even sometimes, you know, beyond the idea of a Jaina replication, like our Ultimate Evolution, sometimes even Muradin Ultimate Evolution isn't bad going forwards into certain situations.
I also have to say, I really feel they need that damage, because when you look at their setup right now, they're really banking their hopes on blowing a target up early on. And if you have level 10 and there is that palm in play, then with a decent cleanse and also a palm, especially since Tacita is also a factor, Karazim will be able to keep a burst target alive. And all of a sudden, you're a one-trick pony, but up to the top lane, it looks like for now the ePunks are in trouble as Wolfjo is very low and goes down as they jump in to take him on.
And the second one goes down as well, Karazim, with Sylvanas falling overall. The thing is that even if a leap wasn't there for Muradin, we would always have seen the leap from Rehgar come out for that killing blow. Is only at 60 health. So the mine's set up in a good, strong perimeter there. They're wanting to kind of prioritize that bottom location. So maybe they can give more emphasis onto the top there to try and rival those shrines.
And right now, the shrines or the altars are going to spawn. Keep in mind, the first and the fifth objective wave is always going to be a triple spawn. And Snitch with that global presence is already looking up to the top left to channel one of the altars through. Didn't do that yet. Here we have the exchange, 1-for-1. The third one up to the top left is still heavily contested, though.
Yeah, Raid Boss is going to have to haunting wave away. Chris quite far in here. He could get blown up quite easily. Doesn't have the power slide. Now only just coming off cooldown. Trying to get away. The Eldrunes might forwards. He will fall. That is ETC dead.
Nande trying to help out with the shield, and now he himself is in trouble. It's empty to escape here. Wolfjo with the heal. Dimensional shift is in, but Tacita is eliminated. And that's 4 kills against 0, 5 kills against 0 as Karazim falls in favor of Dignitas.
That was brutal. Somehow, some way, Team Dignitas just keep managing to get these kills without even I guess a super strong early game focus in their composition. Tyrael is quite strong early on, admittedly, especially with Heroic Reforging at level 4, because when he hits his Eldrunes, it's going to be coming off cooldown very quickly and he can chase even further, but still, they should not be getting 5 kills that quickly.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, the more talents I see on Snitch's Abathur, the more I'm afraid for the ePunks going into the late game here. We talked about the synergy a few times already, but now he also invested into the Adrenal Overload, which is even going to increase that attack speed. Muradin is going to be a monster later on. How do you kill him and how do you deal with his damage output? Especially when in the early game you're already suffering.
I mean, even Tyrael does a surprising amount of damage in my opinion. Like, you got to be careful. He does find good positions and he is very sustainable as well, especially in a double warrior comp, as they do rotate around to the top, maybe looking for Wolf Joe and Raid Boss.
Of course, we still have that Sylvanas in the midst of the ePunks, so if they gain some momentum and they can maybe push a few of those bell towers down, they might get the advantage here. But right now, Dignitas, they are the team that is running the show with the earlier level 7 talent. They're already moving in with the mercenaries, taking out a few of the structures, and we have them with an adjustment on 7 as Frostbitten is the talent of choice for Menace Jaina.
Yeah, looking just for those extra little blow-ups here when they're trying to catch someone, just looking for extra damage, I suppose, in that burst compared to a fully sustained amount of damage coming out.
Well, at the same time, 7 talents also coming in, and Jaina is actually looking for even more wave clear. Calamity also being used to kind of achieve the same goal, also useful for those team fight potentials there. But with the unstable poison on Sylvanas, you really want to blow these waves away and try to pressure the opponent through wave clear. This is something they can definitely still do. We also have Carla's Embrace, the crucial talent for Tacita in the setup.
Oh yeah, especially with all this auto attack focus. Well, on their side, of course. And you got to understand as well that, of course, when they're looking for all of that wave clear, they are in part because they are against an Abathur, which is a bit of a pain in the bum when it comes to like lane control.
Just look at the top lane, he's already there, soaking experience, but Tacita falls, and that should never happen in this setup. Now they're in a 5 versus 4 situation, and this is not boding well for the ePunks. Again, Wolf Joe under pressure, dashes away, but it leaves ETC wide open, gets cleansed for a moment, he is still on the run, Mena is low, but he can't even go for the counter kill, slides away, saves himself, the Stormbolt hits home though, they go for him, and ETC falls, making it 7 kills against 0.
I really like JPL's jump there, actually kind of crossing the T and just getting into a good position so he could try and throw the Stormbolt on towards ETC, and I mean, it's 7 against 0. They're almost level 10 against 8. This is getting out of hand.
Abathur just soaking the top lane the entire time, making sure that he helps out the team with a symbiote, and now we have the level 10 ability for them in reach, and like, this is a disaster for the ePunks here in their second game at Gamescom.
I mean, Snitch could be even further forwards. With the amount of focus that was on the fight down there, of course he may have been a little bit scared that ETC would come out, not join the fight towards the bottom and come up towards the top, which he is doing now, but this is just, again, scaling out of control with the heroics now in.
It's also incredibly difficult for the ePunks to deal with Abathur in these positions. They don't have a force that can simply fly on the other side of the lane, so they have to be always super careful, and Abathur will get value. Again, we have a push at the bot lane, and this is Mena with the Blizzard just bursting down another tower with the help of JPL and Bakery. Mid lane experience is soaked by Tyrael. They have their 10s now, and this is just such a dominant position right now for Dignitas. They are just chasing the ePunks, and they are dictating every single second of this game.
And I say it every single time I cast Tyrael, but once it is level 16 and he does have Holy Ground, there's lots of little choke points on this map in a similar vein to Cursed Hollow, not quite as bad, where you can split off and cause people extreme problems with the extra, basically, wall that comes in. Of course, there is Tassadar on the other side, so maybe you can try and do something equal, but it's not as easy, one would say, with Tass.
Well, we have level 10 just about to hit for the ePunks. Maybe they can try and start and stack up a few of those heroic abilities. It's really what they have to hope for. If they can get a bit of a kill train going on and Li Ming gets her resets, then they are able to snowball it. But they need to land that mosh pit this time, and they really need to burst the target away. They decide in favor of the palm once again against the burst damage, not going for the 7-sided here. And even Li Ming going for, well, not going into the disintegrate here, but instead just going for the wave of force.
Yeah, so eventually, if they do get towards 20, you get repulsion, which is extremely powerful. Super great displacement potential.
20 is a long, far way away, so I'm not quite sure if that's going to work out too well for them. Again, this time they are attempting to go for a kill here against JPL. They can't get it. Belt on the bot lane is already taken. At the same time, we're seeing Dignitas trying to split the opponent in 2 halves. Yes, they drive the wedge in, and they take down Kel'Thas. Kill number 8.
Very, very simple here for Team Dignitas. Really kind of snowball in this one. And at the moment, if they push on towards level 13, it's going to be difficult for them. Even just protecting this bell tower alone, it's easier for them to do that because they have an Abathur. So all in all, it's going fantastically for them.
Yeah, and talking about Abathur, guess where he is? He's at the top lane again, soaking extra experience, bringing them even farther ahead. They're about to hit level 13 talents, which gives them another edge. They have the bell tower at the bot lane. Like, they have all the cards in their hands now.
Was that the easiest shrine you've ever seen on this map? That was like...
Probably. Like, right now, the ePunks, they need to land the perfect mosh pit. If they are not able to get a good mosh pit in and capitalize on it, I don't think they have a chance to come back into this match. We really need to see ETC now with a perfect slide, wait for that opportunity and take it, because they're falling farther and farther behind. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough here.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot more to look at right now when it comes to the flow of the game. Other than that, they need a momentum swing in their favor. As you said, aside from the mosh pit, things like Li Ming, if she gets resets, is worth it. But look how long they've been down in this location, and again, they can get away with it because Abathur's just doing what he does everywhere else.
They have to be down here because now we see mercenaries coming in, and they are not stopping them. The shots are fired. The core goes down to 20 hit points, 20 versus 32, and just look at these 13 talents. There we go, Soma Transference on the side of Abathur, and we have the healing static taken for Muradin. He's never gonna die.
This is getting dirty, Kaldor. This is getting messy.
Getting? It's been dirty for like a long time, 9 minutes to be exact.
I just wanted to be friendly, but at the moment, it is not good here for ePunks. They are literally stuck in a corner.
I mean, what they're trying to do is soak 2 lanes with Tacita, or sometimes just rotate someone from the bot lane into the middle to burst the wave away. With Sylvanas, that works. And Snitch might actually fall, even going for the Wailing Arrow here. Better safe than sorry. The Slugger is down, and Snitch, the first death on the side of Dignitas.
Yeah, so that opens things up for them a little bit. If he'd have survived, they would have probably opened things up towards the bottom corner anyway, because 2 shrines are up at the top. But still, it's a good pickup for them to get, considering, I suppose.
Yeah, it was an important one. They saw Abathur in, and she even waved in to make sure that she just doesn't give him any early warnings. To Alex, on the other hand, with the zoning here, 13 versus 13 talents. Let's keep that in mind for a moment, because this is actually an opportunity for the ePunks to make an impression in this game, to actually come back here. But Alex is already channeling the top right. Top left is being channeled through. They just let it happen. Well, at least it seemed that way, but Tacita still has the storm and is able to interrupt.
That was super important, that storm. Just to make sure they can try and get back into it. But it was, you're right, literally split seconds off being able to capture this. They will push in once again here. Alex going to be leading the charge with that Abathur hat as well. Wall to seal him in, but it doesn't matter. He has Elder Rune's Might if he needs it.
This is the fight that you have to take. You have to fight now or never. Will of the Forsaken taken for Sylvanas. We have also now, of course, Illusion is taken. They go in. They try to go for a kill. There's the stun against ETC. JBL in the middle of things. No palm being used. Karazim without the palm, and ETC, he falls again. He is the only frontliner. They have to keep him alive. That's why they play a double support, and again, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and this is something that kind of has come to fruition in the European scene, which was double warrior against double support for quite a while, and double support seemed to keep losing out to double warrior. And when we were looking at drafts, we were thinking to ourselves, what do they want in this last 5th pick? And you brought up something, the idea of a Leoric for a double warrior to try and rival against a double warrior. The Tacitus doesn't work so far.
Leoric would have given them a bit more wave clear on the lane, and of course you can with a Hopelessness build or a Drain Hope build put more pressure onto the front line of Dignitas. In this case, the double support can still work, but Karazim needs to land that palm. He needs to keep the burst target alive or it's all over. And there's again the mosh pit. Maybe this time they go for Rhaegar. Rhaegar is down. It's the double kill they've been waiting for. Muradin dead, Rhaegar dead, and this is the chance for the ePunks.
Yeah, and unfortunately that ring really didn't do anything for Dignitas at all, so the ePunks going to have to try and push on against this. They get them at a perfect time, just before level 16, so Dignitas can't take advantage of that important crucial tier talent.
Sylvanas, now they need to use Sylvanas. That's the moment when she shines. They go to the bot lane, they want the bell tower. That would be a great spot for them, and they will hit level 16 very soon. Dignitas already has it, and of course, again, JPL with Given the Axe, he has the Abathur support. He has the constant extra damage, even though, of course, the Adrenal Overload in level 4, which allows him to attack even faster. Abathur and Muradin, they are going to be like the stuff that nightmares are made of for the ePunks. But the ePunks at least bought themselves a fighting chance now.
It's kind of like the old Illidan with Abathur, but he just stands there and hits you in the face. He doesn't jump around you. He does a lot of damage with Give Him the Axe. So if you've never tried it before, make sure you eventually just kind of give it a little go, and then it's like, oh, something slowed. What? I'm hitting things for almost 400 damage already. This is really nice.
Yeah, this is really nice and really easy. And here comes the palm. That's what we were looking for the entire time. And Chrisplosion is maybe even going to die. The shield of Tesla. That's just not enough. And there's Muradin. Welcome to the party. Muradin with Abathur head. They get a double kill. They take down Karazim. They take down ETC. And they also eliminate Sylvanas now. It is just so tough to go up against this.
Solo Warrior alone against that. We've seen ETC die multiple times because he's all alone. He does not have proper reinforcement. And also that Sanctification, huge value, massive value.
They're still not quite out of here. I mean, if you look at it, they had 5 bell towers under their control, so that means it was 5 shots versus 6, so it wasn't really too bad yet. They still can come back into this, but we've just seen how difficult it is to deal with that setup that Dignitas has. What they really need, as they did before, again, the mosh pit. I really feel it's the only way that they can actually win a fight, if the mosh pit hits home.
Yeah, they need to do something with it. Li Ming at the moment, 35,000 damage against heroes, which is technically the highest in the game, but it's not been enough that she hasn't had that momentum swing in her favor. There's only been 1 kill on her side, and obviously, as you say, you know, if she can get those resets under something like a mosh, it would be great, but for now, it's not happening.
Abathur, of course, soaking, and it's reflected in the experience that has been gathered during the game. With the level 16 talents, at least Karazim has the option to go into the Circle of Life, and that's what he did. Also the Dimensional Warp, who should keep Tassadar alive a bit longer. And they are just like rotating in. Bot lane Bell Tower is already about to be reclaimed. Top lane is being pressured. The teams are still kind of close in experience. It's the level lead for Dignitas. But if you look at that kill count, 12 kills versus 3.
It's not pretty here for ePunks. Being sealed in that corner for so long, it really put a stamp against them. Unfortunately now, we're seeing many, as well as JPL, just push on against that, causing a lot of problems here for ePunks. Of course, they did get that bell tower up towards the top left, which is nice, but there's only 6 shots left.
Yeah, they have to just make sure that they have in this situation that mosh pit. It's all about the mosh pit here. They don't have really another chance to kill someone. They need to combo it with a good wailing arrow, especially when potential interrupts come in. A pre-cleanse can help with it too. Now there's even more shots fired thanks to the bot lane mercenary camp going in. And it's an even split at this point. There we have the Dimensional Warp already coming to play. In jumps Muradin, and he wants to go for it. Sanctification's on the ground. Not quite sure if that was needed, but they're able to take ETC down regardless. And that is going to be even harder now, because the ulti spawn in 10 seconds and you are down to 5 points on the core.
Morphjoy may end up dying kind of close. There's the wave of force to try and keep it away. Oh, 29 health, but gets killed off. Eldraune's might flies in from Alex the Pro G. And the thing is that once again, for I think the 5th or 6th time this game, ETC is first blood in a fight. Yeah. So it's just, you then have no front line, and then you just have you have Sylvanas, Li Ming, Tassadar, and Karazim behind that. They're going to get ripped to shreds without the ETC.
They're trying to escort the few mercenaries at the bot lane now through, and that will be the end. They're already at it. The mercenaries are starting to move in, and if those are hitting home, just one of them is needed. 23 points against 1 on the core. They're going in. There's the copy. They escort them in any second now, and not yet. Sylvanas falling, but this is definitely going to be it. Or is it?
Well, they're trying to get it there.
There we go.
GG, that will be Team Dignitas taking game number 2 here with the 2-0 to start things off for day 1 of our EU Regional here at Gamescom. And, I mean...
dominant.
Yeah, very, very dominant here in game number 2. Very strong showing there from them.
It was extremely well played. The composition that made also way more sense there. That Tassadar, not maybe the perfect pick for the ePunks then in the end. But Dignitas looking strong in their first game at Gamescom, so definitely a good start into the tournament for them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know these teams very well. Team Dignitas has come into this tournament, you know, not feeling, you know, at the very tip-top of confidence at their level or whatever.
Let's say they had a bit of losing streak in practice that kind of was expected. Like, they talked a little bit about, like, yeah, we'll see how it goes, but this was the perfect start for them. I mean, they look good here.
Definitely, definitely. It gives them a bit more of a confidence boost going on. Being able to control the games as they did with drafts that looked very Valencia-esque when they were in a strong position. So that was definitely a powerful showing for them.
They were relying on stuff they know that they're comfortable with the adjustment of Jaina that is now finally like stronger. And it's one of Mena's preferred heroes as well. He loves to play the Kalthas, he loves to play the Jaina. So the meta shifting a little bit more towards the Frost Mage now is perfect for him.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself, really. It's nice to see him have that kind of comfort zone, especially since we saw him a lot in previous metas, I guess like 6, 7, 8 months ago, where Jaina was still, you know, a thing. But as of late, you know, coming back in and him having all that practice on it from prior, it's like, what, the big difference is 3 waves of Blizzard against 2? It's not huge differences, really.
And let's not forget that with Abathar now all of a sudden having a second copy target, it's not as easy as seeing Abathar banning out the Grey main and feeling safe. Now we have a Jaina against you too, so both of them are just great copy targets with the Ultimate Evolution on 10. So that could actually be something that will impact the rest of the tournament as well, especially on maps like Cursed Hollow.
That's true. All right, we are going to head over to the stage with Red Eye, who is with Alex the Pro G.
Yes, thank you very much. Well done. Straightforward win in terms of the way it's matched up against these guys. But let's talk about game 1 and the draft itself. All comfort heroes, or what were you thinking?
Game 1, we just had a really normal draft and wanted to play on skill. And we don't see any way we can lose to ePunks if we just play on the skill and they don't have the Tracer.
Okay, and then game 2, Jaina again.
Yeah, Jaina is really nice and Mena is a really beast on him.
And a great start as well. 8-0, I think, maybe 9-0 at the start. What was all that about?
What?
At the start of the game, just going absolutely crazy on them.
Oh yeah, I don't know what happened, but I was just on the side lane and then suddenly we were winning the game. I don't know.
No, that's just as easy. Talk to me about the fact that you guys come into this, you've won 3 of the regionals already out of the 4. You're qualified for BlizzCon. You guys can take it easy, right?
Yeah, we just aim towards getting top 8, so we don't really care what we... Like, we want to perform, of course, but it's not important. Like, if we play bad, we will just laugh and take a break.
Does that make it easier?
What?
Does it make it easier?
I don't know. Like, we are not playing super good right now, so that might be one of the reasons, because we already qualified for BlizzCon and don't have the motivation to do good. What about
the teams in your group? Got Fnatic in there as well. Expecting a harder game?
Yeah, I think Fnatic right now is playing really good, so I think that it will be a really hard match.
All right, well, thanks for your time. Let's head back to the desk and find out what they made of it.
All right, thank you very much, Red Eye. And Alex the Pro G, he's very laid back, you know, very relaxed, I might want to say. He said they don't really care too much about winning this regionals, but, I mean, they still don't want to look bad in front of their fans after all, right?
They care, trust me. And he said that they're just going to laugh it out if they lose. I don't think so. Nobody laughs it out when they lose.
It's an easy excuse, I think, if things go wrong. It's just a matter of, we'll just say, hey, if things go bad, it's okay. I don't know if that's exactly what they're thinking, like Todd said.
Yeah, especially, I mean, Dignitas always being observed very closely because they have certain players that are debatable if they succeed or if they don't succeed, like Alex the Pro G, for example. Just imagine him performing not so well. I mean, people are going to be all over the forums and whatever and talk about him. But anyway, let's get back to the series, guys, and talk about Dignitas and ePunks. We had basically 2 double warriors against double support. The double support lineup didn't really look too good, Jay. Is that something we can expect in the future, or do you think it's definitely time to forget about double support?
It wasn't so much the double support as, you know, Todd talked about the Tyrael play from Alex the Pro G, and we talked about if you play it at the top tier, then you know you're going to get great value out of it. And they got phenomenal value. They isolated heroes at the right time. They were able to capitalize on it. We had Jaina clones. We had Mene being an absolute menace on Jaina. Yeah. I think it was more Dignitas just outplayed the rotations with the heroes that they had.
Absolutely, and maybe we can take a look at one of those moments if you take us through that replay, Jay.
I mean, this right here kind of signified a lot of what we had. There was the heroes that we had in this game, but if you look towards the bottom of the screen, there's a holy ground. They isolate ETC. The palm comes in beautifully. And then the sanctification, they continue the follow-up, and the minute they get down, watch the next person fall. He's going to go down as the Blizzard continues to reign. And then Alex the Pro G continues to go in, guys. Look at this. Smite's going to come down. Holy ground, everything trying to get the kill. Manages to get the kill. And there's the reaction from Wolf Joe in that moment. He's like, hey, guys, that was kind of rough.
Wolf Joe not having the best of his days here at this tournament. I mean, he tried to play Karzim well twice in a row, but these palms just didn't make it.
Well, it was paired with Tassadar, that's not generally what you want to have Palm with, because it can, the shields cannot synergize it and can make the Palm miss. But I just want to highlight again the brilliance of the composition that we had from Team Dignitas. There's a reason why Abathur works so well with Jaina. She provides that early game damage where he's still trying to build up and start to get some pushing going. And then later on, of course, he has very strong split pushing. But the combo of them together, because her trait allows her abilities to do 50% more damage when she's hit someone with them, he inherits that trait and adds 20% ability power to that. That is such a strong hero. And that's why we see heroes like Jaina and Greymane being such good targets for a clone like that.
I would have loved to see ePunks maybe getting ahead early on and seeing how well they could do this time around. You know, they never really got any momentum. They were down so many takedowns, were really making anything happen. They had a good hold eventually at the bottom side of the map, and then they capitalized nicely on it and got a bell tower, but then eventually, like, things evened out and Dignitas, you know, recomposed, and then they won the next fight again. So I would have loved to be able to see that, but I guess Dignitas as well, they realized very well they couldn't fall behind against this composition here.
And of course, with this first series now being decided, guys, in Group A on the first group stay here for the second fall regional in Europe, that things have actually changed a little bit here. If you take a look at Team Dignitas in the upper half of the bracket, we see that they advance to the winners match potentially against their eternal rivals from Fnatic, if those guys manage to pull off a victory against 2Bs. However, on the flip side, on the lower half of the bracket, we see ePunks, the German team, the local matadores, if you will. They still have to hold their ground and try again to make it to that deciders match against either the loser of Fnatic or 2Bs. Guys, anything we can expect from this next upcoming best of 3?
I think Fnatic, I mean, you've got to look at them as one of the favorites coming into the tournament.
Absolutely.
They have such a good hero pool. When you look at that, we talked about Dignitas having an all-star team. Fnatic has one too. When those two teams clash, I mean, it creates some of the most exciting games that we have in all of Heroes. It's a matter of, is Fnatic going to have kind of like that early game? This is first day. Are they going to lay back, or are they going to come out in 2-0 similarly to what we saw from Dignitas? That's going to be the big question, but Fnatic, I think we've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, if they follow their current pattern, they did like a third, fourth, and then the last two, they had second. What's next after that, guys? What's next for Fnatic? I'm just saying.
I think first is next. I wouldn't be surprised. They're playing very well. They're very motivated, and even Dignitas, you know, they mentioned it's going to be a hard game against Fnatic, already kind of forcing them to do well. We can't overlook ADRD. ADRD against Schwippy is always like a showdown I'm very excited for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have so many talented players here in Europe on the side of Fnatic. I mean, Schwimpy, for example, always known to pull out fancy heroes. Quacknix, one of the most stable and consistent ranged assassin players that we have. And it's definitely ripe, or the time is ripe for them to earn their first big title here. And what better stage than at Gamescom here in Cologne, Germany for that second regionals. And let's not forget one thing, guys. I mean, going to BlizzCon is, of course, the ultimate goal. But there's also a lot of money here on the line in this tournament. I mean, $100,000. The winner gets the lion's share of $25K. That's, again, a lot of money to spend on skins, pizza, and all other goodness related to gaming. I mean, that's nothing to really discard.
Do we dare talk about some news stuff that's coming?
Oh, was there anything new announced?
I heard there was an announcement yesterday. No big deal.
Good one, eh?
Not really anything in particular. Maybe some Alarak person. I don't know. Never heard of him.
I'm so excited for him. Here's the best part.
Look at our StarCraft 2 expert here. He's just all calm and steady. How excited do you have to be
I'm
here,
very
Todd?
excited. I had a big smile. I was like, StarCraft, yeah, you know, that's also my game. So it's cool to see so much StarCraft stuff, I guess, go over to Heroes. And I'm not complaining. You know, they could have picked another game, but no, they picked StarCraft.
I just want to say, so I'm letting people inside, okay?
Sure.
I actually was like, they were like, who wants to do makeup, right? We wore makeup on here. I was like, me first, okay? I got makeup done because I wanted to have time, and I went over to where Grubby was streaming.
Oh my lord!
And I was watching Grubby stream. I wanted to get a look at the maps. I haven't seen them yet. I wanted to see the maps. Alarak was on there. I'm watching the StarCraft maps, and there's so much going on. I'm just like sitting behind, like, this is really good stuff. I'm excited for that new content.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
just me personally.
And you know what I'm excited about? I mean, after the next short commercial break that's going to take place in a few moments here, we're going to have the second best of 3 here going for you guys in Group A between Fnatic and 2Bs, the team of the, if you will, the crazy or mad scientist, ADRD himself. So you're down for some exotic picks potentially. So don't go anywhere and make sure to stay tuned.